You have to wonder how many Guitar Hero players were converted to metalheads by this band.
You have played Guitar Hero enough to reach 1 million points! Congratulations! You are
fabulous.
Today we are ranking the albums of DragonForce, and we are starting with Valley of the Damned in 2003. This was originally recorded in 2000 under their original name, Dragonheart.
I am the last one!
But was then re-recorded and released via Noise Records. While demonstrating much of the same framework as classic power metal, these guys definitely forged their own way with a more modern feel and, of course, insane soloing. Valley of the Damned is a damn fine way to kick off their career. Great dueling harmonized guitars on Blackfire, amazing riffing on Black Winter Night. Revelations, Heart of a Dragon, and Evening Star are also early benchmarks. Say what you will about what they do, but they carved out a very recognizable niche for themselves, and in my opinion, no one does it better, so I'm putting this one all the way at perfection. We followed that up with Sonic Firestorm in 2004. This thing starts off on a very promising note. My Spirit Will Go On is an epic opener. It's like flying on a dragon through the clouds to go slay a bigger dragon riding another even larger dragon. And it also feels like a prototype for Through the Fire and Flames, which, believe me, we will get to. Fury of the Storm also has that super hype intro with the harmonized vocals going into that first riff, and Fields of Despair is pretty catchy too. Unfortunately, the record kind of drops off a bit for me after that. For some reason, this one feels too floaty and saccharine for me, with compositions that feel a little generic. It might be something about the production too. I like the piano on Dawn Over a New World, but it's pretty cheesy even for them, and just makes me wish I was listening to classic Elton John instead. Dude is the GOAT. Of the later tracks, I do like Once in a Lifetime. Not all bad, just can't live up to its earlier moments, so I'm putting it at good. And I have to say, I don't think they have a truly bad or even like mediocre album. But next up is Inhuman Rampage in 2005. So here it is, the big breakout album, and I really do wish I had actual stats to show how many kids got into power metal, or even just metal in general, due to the constant promotion of Through Fire and Flames, thanks in no small part to the popularity of Guitar Hero in particular. And well deserved, I say. Even after all these years, that song never fails to get me hyped anytime I hear it come on. It's impossible to not sing along to. Fun fact, Herman Lee apparently snapped a guitar string during the recording we hear on the record. And fortunately, this album is not a one-trick pony either, following up strong with Revolution Death Squad. Really dig the contrast of those punky D-beats with the atmospheric synths, and incredible bass break on Body Breakdown. The Flame of Youth is pure bliss. Love these spookier theremin sounding keys and overall variety of effects and textures on Cry for Eternity. Another very impressive and lengthy solo too. And then of course there is the almost equally anthemic Operation Ground and Pound. I see this album rated as second lowest on Metal Storm, and I just cannot agree. I think it's a big step up from the last one, and still one of my favorites start to finish with not a dud to be found. So for me, it is going to perfection. Yo, we have plenty more albums to go, but as always, this is just my opinion. I want to hear your comments down below in terms of what are your favorites, your least favorites, where do you agree, where do you disagree. If you're enjoying the video, hit the like button too, it really helps me out. But next up, we have Ultra Beatdown in 2008. Another fun, if a little bit derivative at this point, opener in Heroes of Our Time. The piano break is a nice touch. Love the 80s vibes on The Fire Still Burns, this track seeming to act as a sequel of sorts with plenty of similarities to the original, but has its own little twist as well. I also like The Last Journey Home. Fantastic vocal harmonies on Reason to Live. A lot of the time though, I would describe this album as enjoyable but a bit redundant. It does go through very similar motions but with less of an in-your-face attitude. Some people might like that, but I tend to prefer these guys turned up to 11, which we do get some of on Inside the Winter Storm and The Warrior Inside. A Flame for Freedom definitely crosses the line from fun cheesy to lame for me as well. Good, just not particularly memorable. I do like it more front to back than Sonic Firestorm though, and this is the last album with their original vocalists, and notably the lowest rated on Metal Storm with a 6.9. I'm gonna put this one at good tier. Then we got The Power Within in 2012. Mark Hudson stepping in on vocals, and he really seems to want to make his presence known with that opening high note on Holding On. I like both vocalists, and they can be similar in many ways, but I do think that Mark does bring his own little subtle differences to the table. He has a little bit more of a nasally quality too. Also really dig the overall speed and energy of Fallen World. Still a lot of same ideas on display, but I do hear some little new and much needed variations in the riffs. Cry Thunder in particular feels like a break from their usual writing style with more of a folky bounce to it. Very fun song. Love Give Me the Night and Heart of the Storm. Solid dynamics on Wings of Liberty. Some mixed feelings on Seasons. Overall, I'm putting this one at great tier. Then there's Maximum Overload in 2014. Probably the most different opener so far with the game, and those riffs remind me of like melodic death metal more, a la At the Gates and Dark Tranquility than power metal. Not to mention some harsh vocals courtesy of Matt Heafy, who guests on a few of these tracks. Kind of refreshing to hear them shaking up the usual formula, even if the solo still has a few too many of the usual tropes. That said, I have mixed feelings because while the experimentation is definitely warranted and you can only get away with writing basically the same album so many times, I don't feel like the execution is quite there yet on some of these. Not in love with Tomorrow's Kings, though it has some moments. I dig the gang vocals, but the implementation on No More feels a little clunky. Extraction Zone goes through a lot of interesting shifts, but still feels like it's missing something. On the plus side, The Sun is Dead brings more great 70s and 80s power ballad vibes, complete with Hammond organ and rock solo, and City of God is great. This album was also recorded with Jens Bogren instead of in their own studio, and was the last with drummer Dave McIntosh. I'm putting it at great tier as well. Then there's Reaching into Infinity in 2017.
The time has come for me. The time to overcome and do what is right.
This opener feels a little bit retready, but the vocals are still pretty strong. If you ask me, Judgment Day should have been the opener. Top 10 chorus from them. Curse of Darkness has a little bit of Dream Theater atmosphere. Love Midnight Madness and Land of Shattered Dreams. Part of it also reminds me of the ice level from Sonic. War is super thrashy. There's even some death vocals on the progressive The Edge of the World, which at 11 minutes and 3 seconds is their longest song to date, and reportedly inspired by Iron Maiden's Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. This is also their longest album to date, and the last album with longtime keyboardist Vadim. Lee described the album as their most diverse. Some of the ballads are a little cheesy, but when it comes to hits, it really hits, and the cover of Death's Evil Dead is a nice bonus as well. So this one is going to fantastic. Then we got Extreme Power Metal in 2019. More Dream Theater influences on Heart Demolition, and that bass intro to Troopers of the Stars. Great bagpipes on the already soaring Remembrance Day. Cosmic Power of the Infinite Shred Machine is among my favorites, with that crazy Sonic the Hedgehog Casino Nights dance party section. The Last Dragonborn throws in some great Eastern-sounding atmosphere with some traditional folk instrument sounds, and reminds me of a high-budget anime theme song at times. Keys were recorded by Epica's Cohen Jansen as a session member, and I think he adds a lot to this recording. Love the feel-good melodies and jaunty vibes of Remembrance Day. They even throw in the most epic cover of My Heart Will Go On, and it fucking slaps. Another super anthemic record with tons of infectious sing-alongs, and really leaning into the camp and sense of humor, right down to the artwork, music videos, and song titles. It really breezes by too. More experimentation, but with better execution. I'm also putting this one at fantastic and pretty high at that. Which brings us to Warp Speed Warriors in 2024. As a longtime Zelda fan, I absolutely love the energy they bring to the epic single Power of the Triforce, which continues to be one of my favorites and is almost as infectious to sing along to as Through the Fire and Flames. Opener Astro Warrior Anthem is also strong, if a bit familiar. From there, though, things do get kind of interesting. We've got the big church bells and 80 synths opening the slower ballad Kingdom of Steel, which, while uplifting, also once more crosses the line a bit too far into the cheese, right down to the OOs. Burning Heart brings back some serious speed and a lot of their usual hallmarks, but also enough tweaks to the formula to help it stand out. I really dig the interlude on this one too. And as much as I also enjoyed Warhammer and yes, painted quite a few models back in the day,
Nerd alert. Nerd alert!
Space Marine Corps is my least favorite here with its super corny army chanting. They rolled the dice on something very different, and unfortunately the gamble resulted in what I consider to be one of their worst songs of all time. The Killer Queen is definitely catchy with some fun bass sections and strong dynamics and pacing to the songwriting, while Doomsday Party goes full funky dance party. Then back to the shredding and video game soundscapes with Pixel Prison, and closing with another surprising cover in Taylor Swift's Wildest Dreams, which, while not as epic as My Heart Will Go On, does translate shockingly well. Solid if somewhat inconsistent runtime, though arguably the most surprising thing is that all of the guest appearance versions of these tracks, including Matt Heafy of Trivium, Nita Strauss, Elisa Whitegloves of Arch Enemy, and Elise Rid of Amaranth are all relegated to bonus tracks. Taken as a whole, I like it, and it may end up being among my favorite albums of the month, but I don't think it's one of their best. And I think in particular, I'm sorry, but Space Marine Corps just really drags this one down for me, just how much I dislike that track. But the rest of it's really solid. I think I'm going to split the difference and put it at great tier. Y'all check out this video ranking debut albums from power metal bands, or this one with my rankings of the Sabaton discography. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.